Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. We've got episode 19 coming at you guys today. And a very special guest, we've got Vikta Paulo, also known as the voice in many basketball communities as well. He is a announcer, in-game commentary, play-by-play, broadcasting, you name it. If it's got something to do with a basketball and a microphone, he's probably got his hands in it there for sure. And he brings a wealth of experience, not only in local and amateur scenes, but also all the way up to high-profile events like NBA All-Star Weekend. He's got a couple PanAm Games as well too, and more. So definitely some cool stuff to discuss there. And we sit down and we talk sports and how he sort of got started. And it's kind of an interesting journey as far as how he sort of fell into the niche that he is in now, and he's sort of just taken that and is running with it and is now thriving in it. So really great interview, and hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. Joining us today, we've got a great guest, the one, the only, Vikta, the voice, Paulo. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no, we're really happy to have you on. We're going to talk about all sorts of things, sports, basketball, but really, if we're starting at the beginning here, I mean, I guess my biggest question is, how did you get started in doing the announcing, right? Because there's not too many 6-year-olds you come across and you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they go, oh, I got to be a basketball announcer there, right? So what sort of got you started in the industry?
Well, I was actually a student at Algonquin at the time, and there was an opening for an in-game PA announcer for the basketball games. And I generally was a fan and loved to go see the games, knew a couple of the players on the team. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get great seats to great basketball. So ended up stepping into it, not knowing anything about anything. And, turned out, 15 years later, here we are, more than 3 international events under my belt, and probably over 500 games that I've done, of top basketball events. So it's pretty funny how things always start and where they end up.
Yeah, no kidding. So it all started out with just, I could pay admission to go and see the games, or, I could announce and get in for free and see some high-level basketball.
It was more of the best seats in the house. You're right there, center court in the middle, right? It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, not like you just sort of mentioned there, you've done hundreds and hundreds of events now, and some of them super high level. You've done PanAm Games, you've done some stuff with NBA All-Star Weekend, so some pretty cool things. Has it always been basketball with you, or have you also sort of done some other sports as well, too?
Well, while I was at Algonquin, when I started, I actually did all of their varsity sports. So that was men and women's volleyball, men and women's basketball, and men and women's varsity soccer as well. So I had pretty versatile wheelhouse. And then when I was at Carleton as one of their voices there, I did their men's hockey. I did their men and women's soccer as well. There's a couple of other different sports that I did. So I've kind of been versatile and being able to do a couple of different things. I think I've also done football. I did a couple football events as well too. I did the top 40 players in it's like the top 40 prospect game, which is held here at Lansdowne, a TV place. So I got to do that a couple times as well. So pretty versatile when it comes to doing multiple sports.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously basketball is going to be number one and near to dear to your heart there. Do you have a second sort of preference there, or a runner-up, if you will?
I mean, basketball I like because you're always constantly announcing something. So, I mean, I'd probably have to say if I had a runner-up sport, that's tough because even I've done baseball as well too. So that's kind of fun because with baseball, each batter has a walk-up, like an entrance theme song, and usually, you announce the batter walking up. So that's kind of cool because you get to showcase a lot more of your announcing skills doing something like that. So I probably put baseball as number 2.
Nice. A man of many trades there then. So, I mean, we already touched on it, right? You've done some pretty high-profile events, and something like a PanAm Games, let's say, for example, here. What kind of preparation are you doing ahead of time going into one of these sort of larger scale events? Are you studying rosters? Or are you pronouncing, all the player names in front of a mirror? Like, what goes into it before you actually grab a microphone for an event like that?
Well, a lot of it is just, making sure your voice is ready for it. So, leading into the PanAm Games, it was luckily I had, Carleton season I'd finished men and women's basketball. And I did also, usually Tony House hosts the Ottawa High School, Middle School All-Star, well, it's the Ottawa High School All-Star game. And of course, Jeff Wilson hosts the Middle School All-Star game. So being able to do those type of events kind of help build up and lead into it. Also at the time, around 2015, I was doing a lot of announcing events in Toronto as well. So it was helpful kind of having a couple of games under my belt to get me vocally ready. But when it comes to the pronunciation of the games, a lot of it is information you get once you actually enter the arena and you do the games, and you get the media guide, then you get the listed names, and usually you get about, a half hour sometimes to crunch them all in 45 minutes before the game to see what the names are. So it was definitely more challenging because you see a lot more international names doing the Pan American Games, but that's also part of the excitement too, is learning kind of how to operate outside of your regular wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, when you are doing, obviously all these events are live as well too. Do nerves ever sort of play a factor there, or do you ever find yourself, fumbling over your words, or does everything just sort of always come naturally to you in that realm there?
I mean, I'd say if I never had any nerves going into it is kind of when I know I don't want to be doing it anymore. That's part of what helps me be great at what I do, is I use a lot of my nerves and convert that energy into kind of like a positive output. But with that being said, it's kind of, I've been doing this for a long time, and, got to remind yourself, where you started and look at where you are. And that's only because of, the body of work that you put into it. So and you got to look at every game like it's just a game, right? That's the other thing too. Like the same thing you tell your players, the same thing you got to tell yourself as an announcer, that, whether it's an NBA All-Star type event, All-Star weekend, or it's Pan American Games event, or, anything like that, you just got to take it with the same approach, whether it's a middle school All-Star game or I'm doing a local game here in Ottawa. I take the same approach with every single one, whether it's highest level or the lowest level. It's always to just get my best foot forward. So, it's kind of having that approach to it takes away the kind of angst or nervousness, which will make you kind of make mistakes, is because, you kind of remind yourself that this is just what you do, enjoy it, have fun with it. And, once you stop having fun with it is really when, you should really stop doing it, because it's an exciting job to have, not a lot of people get to do it. So you got to have the most with it.
Yeah, no, wise words for sure. And, speaking of some high level stuff there, you've actually recently been announced as the Blackjacks announcer coming up for what was supposed to be this season. Obviously, with a global pandemic going on, things sort of changed a little bit there. But, what was that process sort of like? Was that something where, they reached out to you? Did you apply for it? How did that all sort of come about and actually come to fruition there?
Well, when it first all began learning about the CEBL after the first season, I did my homework to find out who kind of were the key players behind the scenes, and definitely leveraged my network in regards to being able to find out who was who and being able to reach out to them. But like getting this job, like almost, it was something which I probably sent over probably 50 emails, made over like 100 phone calls, really put myself out there, let people know, hey, this is who I am, this is what I've done. And that's always the same approach that I've had since, when I was announcing in my beginning, when I had no resume and I was trying to get myself gigs. It's the same approach that I have now, except when I'm approaching people saying, hey, look at what I've done. It's like, hey, look at this resume, 15 years of international events that I've done at the same time. So it kind of has more of a different effect. But luckily it fell on great ears, and luckily my body of work is able to speak for itself, and my references are able to speak well of myself as well too. So, and I had a chance to sit down with the commissioner as well, Mike Morielli, really great guy, and he's a sports guy as well too. So, really smart, business-minded guy. He has a great vision for the league, especially the fact that he's a Canadian guy himself. So he really believes in having a strong Canadian product, which to me is amazing, because something basketball related that's Canadian, which is going to eventually grow to being, one of the premier sports that we're going to have here in our country. So, being able to meet with him, as well as our team president, Mike Savidovich, really great guy, was was able to meet with them, sit down, chat, tell them a little bit about myself and what I do in the community. And, it just seemed to be like a great fit in regards to, what I do in regards to basketball and who I am in terms to how I am as a person in the community as well, too. So I'm kind of grateful that, everything I've kind of collectively done in the last 15 years sort of allowed me to be in this position to, be the voice for the Blackjacks.
Yeah, no, definitely a very cool experience. And, I've got to imagine, when you did finally get that call after making, as you said, 50 calls, 100 emails, all of that there, it was obviously a very satisfying thing. What was it like when you finally got told, all right, you know what, the job's yours, you're our guy for this season?
It's super exciting. It's really good to know that, that you are viewed as that level in the city. I mean, there's a lot of great announcers here from, Richard Provencher, who's been announcing here in Ottawa since the 80s. He's the U Ottawa announcer. I mean, he's someone who's announced I think when Team Canada came here, I think a year or two ago at TD Place, he was the voice for that event. He was the voice, don't forget, for the finals that was here in Ottawa a couple months ago at TD Place. He's someone to me, which I always look up to as an announcer, because he's someone that's sort of, in my opinion, kind of paved the way for announcing, right? I wouldn't be able to do all the stuff that I do announcing wise. I truly believe if someone like Richard wasn't able to kind of, pave the way and do what he's done, especially as a minority announcer too, right? Like, it's really important for myself that he's someone who I could see myself as well. So it kind of always gave me that hope and that vision always that there's always sort of a place for myself in the world of announcing. So, kind of a big shout out to him. In regards to, making something like this happen. And, there's a whole lot of other great announcers here in the city as well, too. So to be able to be known as one of the professional announcers in the city in regards to names like that, it's a dream come true. It's something I never would have thought would have been something that's possible. If you would have asked me 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, if you asked me last year, 6 months ago, I still would have told you, I don't believe you. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, definitely a cool experience for sure. And, everything about, the CEBL, the Blackjacks in general, it's all going to be a new experience. So for an expansion club, and especially it being far from a normal year, it's not going to be the regular season. They're going to sort of a tournament format and the, Elam ending and all that fun stuff. As an outside observer, what do you think are some reasonable expectations of what should fans expect out of year one of the Ottawa Blackjacks franchise?
Oops, sorry about that. So year one of the Blackjacks franchise, it's a big question. Obviously as a fan, I'm hoping that we have a winning record. I'm hoping that we get great team synergy on the court. Hoping that, we can really put forward a great product which the city can get behind. I personally believe that we're going to be able to do all of the above. And ideally, it'd be great to see us make a good playoff run. And of course, ideally, the goal of, any team in this league is to win a championship, right? So I think it'd be no greater thing than for Ottawa to bring back a CEBL championship in our first year. Kind of like how Canada Top Flight Academy brought back a NPA championship in their first year.
There you go. Tony House getting some shout outs there from the voice himself.
Shouts out my guys, man. Canada Top Flight Academy.
Yeah.
2-time national champions, by the way. Two-time.
Back to back. And, so with the Blackjacks, though, there's obviously a very, let's call it a Carlton-esque sort of vibe to it there, from, the GM to the coach to many of the players to the draft picks, right? Lots of former Ravens, lots of local talent. So do you think that might actually give them a bit of an advantage sort of going into the season, all sort of being familiar with, the sort of Raven system and maybe even having played with one another before and all that?
I think the one thing that you got to remember is that everyone on that team is a professional, first and foremost. So I think, alumni associations aside, everyone's able to put that aside and kind of put their best professional foot forward. So whether it's Phil, Tommy, John-Manuel Pierre-Charles, Eric Kibbe, the list goes on. These are guys who played at the highest level internationally as well. Johnny Brandon Miscal, I forget Johnny. Right. So these are guys who played at the highest level internationally as well too. Right. So they know what it takes to win at that type of high level. They've also won at a high level locally here as well. So it's going to be great to kind of see players who, in our opinion, were one of the greatest to play in the city and represent the city as basketball players, see them come back as professionals now with their toolboxes really sharpened and see how they're going to be able to perform. I think that's going to be the exciting part. And, instead of the classic, Johnny versus Phil conversation, it's, the class is going to be the new classic, what an assist from Phil to Johnny, or what an assist from Johnny to Phil, or however, for it's going to be real unique to see that kind of play happening.
Yeah. Not too often you see GGs and Ravens getting along like that, but when it happens, it's magical. So, I mean, did you guys, and who knows how far you sort of got down the rabbit hole there as far as actually preparing for the season until, COVID obviously derailed everything there. But, in terms of an in-game experience, and knock on wood, let's hope it's 2021, we can actually see games live again. What can a fan sort of expect out of a Blackjacks game, or what are you as an announcer, what kind of atmosphere are you going to be trying to create when we do get back to in-game person?
I think the main thing is just to make sure that, we have also right now, we're the number one season ticket holder team in the whole CEBL. So I think that just shows how Ottawa is really behind this team and how Ottawa really wants to see this team become successful. So I think really what, the team itself also wants to do is, they want to put their best product on the floor, because there are a lot of guys who are from the city and they've represented the city for a long time as well. So, they want to make sure that they're representing at that level. So I think everything, the whole organization from the top down, we just want to put nothing but the best product forward. So whether that's me on the announcing, getting the crowd excited and getting the team amped and pumped up after they make great plays, that's going to be what we're going to do at just the best possibility, at kind of the best level that we can. So, I think everything from concessions down to the announcing, down to the coaching, down to the playing, I think the Blackjacks are going to, maybe call me biased, but I think we're going to have the best in the league all around.
Yeah. Well, hey, you can't fault you for being a homer there, right? So, looking back on it, obviously lots of really cool and unique experiences you've had through announcing. Do maybe one or two moments in particular stand out above the rest as far as really being memorable or important to you?
I remember announcing the game where Saskatchewan beat Carleton in the final 8. And that was probably my first time witnessing a Dave Smart Carleton team lose in the playoffs, let alone in finals. So that, especially at home too. So that was definitely something which stood out for me. Another thing was also a big game that stood out to me was Carleton versus Ottawa U at Ottawa U. And I think it went to triple or double overtime. Calling that game was insane. The atmosphere, just the whole building was electric. It was an honor being a part of that. And I'm going to say number one overall experience was announcing the Ottawa High School All-Star game that went to overtime. I think it was a year where Eddie Ekior, Jacques Lacoussa, that year. That game was ridiculous because Jacques hit a 3-point shot fadeaway over an Eddie Ekior defender, and this was probably Dame Lillard range in Carleton, packed gym, crowd going crazy. So that was definitely big. Oh wait, no. So there's another one. That's a top one. OFSA in Ottawa when Mariel Shayok was here. It was a game where we played at Carleton. And the game got shut down with a minute to go because we got the crowd was going so hype and the game was so exciting. Merrill had a couple dunks that game. For those who don't know, Merrill is Ottawa's first NBA basketball player. Plays for who got drafted by Phoenix 76ers. Plays for a G League team as well in a 2A. So gotta look out for him when the league resumes.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. Those are a couple of memorable ones.
Yeah.
And I think if we're going to add a fifth one, just for the heck of it, and it's going to be the last city final. It was the last city finals ever held at Algonquin College. And it was Glebe versus Eugene Joseph, Anthony Flores, Glebe Griffins versus a Mike Miller led St. Pat's Irish team. And this was the year before I ended up joining St. Pat's as an assistant under Coach Koslag. So that was very memorable. I remember the crowd was absolutely nuts. It was just peak performance announcing and peak performance basketball, and the crowd was just insane. It was amazing. Like, it was honestly amazing. You can't replicate those things. And I guess non-Ottawa announcement would be probably when I announced with Drake was there, and I had to like interact with him and stuff at halftime. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah, that's it for memorable basketball announcing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, by the sounds of it, right, there's obviously games that are memorable for the games themselves, right? But from your point of view as an announcer whose job is to actually interact with the crowd and all of that, there's a whole other set of extremely memorable games just because of how intense and how hype and everything that the crowd itself is getting, right? So does it stand out for you more when the crowd is way into it, or does it stand out to you more if there's, you know, a crazy play or you know, a last second three to end the game?
I mean, but that's all intertwined, right? Like, if it's a last second shot to win the game, the crowd's going to go crazy or they're going to be deflated. So it's for me, I think it's where I think I like it the most is when I'm able to add, like, it's just a tiny spice to the event. Like, I mean, you don't need me as an announcer to be excited for a basketball moment, but it's just always great whenever I can add a bit of an element to really just cap off the moment, which adds the whole experience. And I don't know, when I announce, I give my heart and soul into it. So whenever a big moment happens, like, you know, like I'm really into it. And then, you know, it gets the crowd really into it. And then it gets the players really into it. And then it just really adds to the atmosphere. You know, highly suggest you guys come out to a Tony House high school all-star classic, or, you know, a Blackjacks game, or, you know, a Jeff Wilson middle school all-star classic, because those are games that always get exciting, and I always, you know, do my best for announcing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if there was someone out there who's, you know, listening to this right now and is thinking, you know, hey, I would love to get into whether it's broadcasting or announcing or something like that around basketball or any sport, really, what's maybe one or two pieces of advice you would give them as to how to actually get started on that path?
Just carve your own path and make it happen. I didn't have a path. I didn't go to school for it. No one said, here's the blueprint. I just went out there and did it, put myself out there, you know, wasn't afraid to make mistakes, wasn't afraid to learn, wasn't afraid to be told no. That's just the big thing. It's the life thing. It's a mindset. If you really want something, you just got to go out there and get it, whether or not you want to be the best, you know, basketball player, the best anime artist, or the best YouTuber, or the best NBA 2K player, or Call of Duty player, whatever. You know, just make sure that you're committed to being that best, and you know that if you're committed to being the best, you're not going to, you know, settle for anything but the best. And, you know, that's always just got to be your mindset moving forward, always and forever.
Right on. Good advice. So, you know, where can people find you if they did want to learn more about, you know, your career, or just, again, reaching out for advice or anything like that? How can people get a hold of you?
Just my name, Vikta Paulo. You know, on Twitter, Instagram. You know, I'm always, you know, one message away. Not a Hollywood guy. I'm normal. You know, I try to sleep 8 hours a day. I try to eat vegetables that I don't like, you know, just like everybody. You know, and I have a wife I answer to. So, you know, hey, you know, everyone's got a boss, just like everyone, you know, so I'm a normal guy. So, you know, if anyone has any questions, you know, feel free to reach out. You know, I really don't mind giving people advice, because, I mean, it wasn't until later on in life where I got to meet Herbie Kuhn, who's the Raptors announcer, who's eventually now my, you know, my announcing mentor, who I got to really spend a lot of close time with, because we both announced together at the Pan American Games in Toronto, 2015. You know, we both started at the same college in Montreal, at Vanier College, and, you know, just learning a lot from him and learning about the kind of person he is as well too, really, you know, helped open my eyes to kind of how big you can do things, and how, you know, if you're someone who's at that level, it's, for me, it was very humbling to see someone like Herbie Kuhn, who's just he's a very humble individual, even though he's the only Raptors announcer since day one. You know, he's probably never missed a game, probably one or two games he's ever missed, like the career of the Raptors home games. And if you would know that just by speaking to him, because he's just such a humble guy, and seeing that really is what kind of helped shape me to be the kind of person that I am, is you don't, even if you're someone who's on a high platform, you don't have to be that quote unquote Hollywood guy. I think and that's why if you ever see me in the community, you always see me with the kids, talking to them like as if I've known them forever, or you always see me interacting with parents in the crowd, or you always see me interacting with players. I'm someone who's, easily as accessible there as you see me, in real life, because I think it's important for these kids to know that, hey, I can reach out to Vikta Paulo and he can, help me out with A or B or C or X, Y, Z. Or if I can't, I definitely know someone within my network who can help you out with A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And I think, kids today need more of that because there's not enough of that. I think them having that accessibility to people who can really help them and genuinely want to help them be successful and see them through to their success. But it's just small things, just if someone has a question, take the time to answer. If you don't have that answer, just take the time to help them find that answer. I mean, it's a big ask. Not a lot of people have the time. Mary got a daughter. I got like 800 jobs. But I still always find time for any of my young guys, because I know when I was that age, it was equally important to get that advice and that sort of, proper mentorship. So that's why I think it's always, the pressure's on us, the community, in order to help the kids within our community. I think it's one thing to sit back and look and point and be like, oh, well, these are just kids from Ritchie, or these are just kids from, Uplands, or these are just kids from Lower Town. But I think it's another thing to say, okay, well, yeah, they're from there, but, how can we help them change the trajectory of where their life is going? How could we help their end goal from where it's heading right now? So I think that's just, if people always look at what they can do, it's just, just reach out. There's tons of kids in your circle, in your network. If you're a basketball person, you see tons of kids that you coach, or if it's a nephew that you have, there's people on their team that might need, advice or help, or you might have nephews, cousins in your own network. So I think it's just important to reach out and ask them for that help, because, especially as young men, I can speak to for myself, it's a pride thing to say, I need help. So sometimes you got to ask them if they need it. Yeah. And that's my rant. I'm over.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and, spending some time and walking us through your journey. And, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be seeing you back on a basketball court announcing something sooner rather than later there.
Definitely. I'm working on some other things as well, too. I just got myself a brand new microphone, so I'm reaching out to a whole lot of, players that I know that are working on getting their mixtapes together, because I know, of course, with basketball season being shortened, a lot of people have to really kind of tighten up their mixtapes and really highlight what they've done in the last couple of seasons, because they're not going to have that extra time right now, for example, to play a summer league or to play any of that kind of stuff. So if they ever want any kind of, good announcing vocals on their mixtapes, I'm always available.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, hope you and the family are well, and all the best in the future. And hopefully we see the Blackjacks having some success sooner rather than later.
Definitely. Mike, likewise as well, too. And thank you so much for reaching out and having me on this. I really appreciate it. It's a really great show you guys got going on.
Anytime. That concludes another episode of the Dine Sports YouTube page and podcast network. Huge thank you, as always, goes out to our guest, Vikta Paulo, for sitting down with us today and walking us through how he got started in a very interesting career as far as broadcasting and announcing and some of the high-profile events that he's been able to do and is going to continue to do in the future there as well, too. Massive thank you to you guys for tuning in as well. As always, we'd love to connect with you guys. We've got various social media pages you guys can check out. Still a few days left in our monthly contests. For those that have Instagram, head on over to our Instagram page there, get the details on that. That wraps up on the 15th. Aside from that, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you guys tune in to our next episode. We've got some great guests lined up for you, and hope you guys enjoy it. Stay safe, everyone.